They're telling me I have a job available at 10 a.m. this morning, but they didn't call. And then they want me to upload a new picture, which is annoying. Because they just want it to be had, like, it's the computer doing all of this. These people who think they're getting rich. And I don't mean to sound contempt, like I have contempt. I can understand, trust me. 33.50 on April 10th, 2 hours. Yeah. It's probably already gone, you know. If they're emailing this to who knows how many people. And I'm not bonded, I'm not certified. I could be blocking the mic right now, so. Okay, I shall schedule my welcome call yet again, so. Wednesday the 9th, since my first appointment canceled. I'll do 1 p.m. and I'm just going to say at this point, this is the third call I'm scheduling. Hope to hear from you tomorrow afternoon. And a thanks so I can get the job that's probably gone. Claim more jobs. Okay, that's auto. Yes, I shall claim. Okay, good. And so I'll update everything here today. Standard cleaning, that's easy. So I think in the app I can send her something and I will do my best job. Because yeah, I have applied, but I'm gonna do it all at this point. I've got to make tons of money right now. That's all I know. Gotta get my coffee. I'm trying, yeah. So then eBay is next. And then I've decided that I'm going to, with Dylan, because he's going to start learning to work. It's just the way it's got to be. And not so he can work for me, so he can work for himself. Because I can provide intellectual property, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm broke AF. Okay, so I'm looking at listing at least 20 items. over the next 3 days. So, right, I'm taking the books for just donations before they get more damaged. And I have the husband's clothes. Wow, look how good these look. Yeah, this is awesome. Oh, C.S. Lewis. Yeah, I gotta do it. So I'll put them online and make them out in public. I think that will work. And yeah, I'm so ready to conquer all of this now, finally. Oh, what prompted me to come on here right now was just this realization. Because yeah, my life has been practically ruined. I'm glad I can really totally just be free and laugh about that at this point, because I realize it's because I was such a lover. Except I was so broken. I was so broken the day this guy betrayed me. And that was at the very beginning. And for the first time in my life, I was facing homelessness. And I know that that's maybe like run of the mill for some people. But for me, it was a travesty because of my belongings, my beautiful belongings, my beautiful wardrobe, my beautiful jewelry. These men, sure, maybe some of them gave it to me, but then they were abusive. They treated me like crap. They had me on the run, and I lost so much of it. Like gems and jewels, sterling silver and gold, gone now. And that's okay, because I still have some gold. And I've got to hold on to it. Like with integrity, I mean. Not with greed, like all of these other people have done with me. That I was one of their objects that they were greedy over when they couldn't give me anything of substance. So I love these lives because it's not really about who's going to watch right now. It's ultimately for posterity. And then the other thing I guess I'm going to do is tarot. And I guess I'm getting a clue right now that has to be at the War Woman channel. And then it's going to fund and support the movie I'm making, which is AI. It's a documentary, and it's AI. Like, I think I can officially say that now, especially because it has to happen this year. So, I mean, at least pre-production. And I'm serious pre-production, not in development. Development hell is almost where I went with this thing. It just, when you give up and you went through all this stuff and you know it's going to be racing around in your head forever, and you're just like, but there's no way out. It's like, no. Just get a job for a time, you'll be all right. And it's been hell working here. Hell, hell, hell. Because there's no appreciation. You know, like, this society is decades behind Atlanta, for instance. But look at where Atlanta is. It's this neoliberalism, so. But I never thought I would look like this in my life. But this is how my mom was, so. How she looked, I guess. And there were times when she would make herself up and overdo her eyebrows so much, and she looked kind of monstrous. But more like an opera, someone on a stage, you might say. like as if you were supposed to see her from far away. And exactly, she's doing like, makes me sad actually, because there's so much mom would want to pass on to me, but she doesn't really get it. And it's because of her greed. But of course, she's greedy because she's traumatized, because she lost everything too. And what's shitty is that these parents don't realize that by being miserable about that and not trying to do something different, like literally accepting sitting there, because my mom, it's true, she just watched TV like constantly. And that was pretty much all she did. She made us terrible food, American food, like the cheapest American food. And that's not what she had in Vietnam. And we were sick and all this. I mean, mom was just, but she didn't vaccinate us. That was the Sanfords. And I'm vaccine injured to this day, I'm quite sure of it. Because sadly, I have this condition, which I'll explain later, but I have these, I wouldn't call them paranormal, but supernatural abilities. And anyone might say, yeah, that's cool. Well, the movies make it cool, but it's a trade-off. Because there's so much about being human that anyone would want, like family in a neighborhood, you know. But you don't have that, you have no family. And when you have what I have, which I'm putting into the movie, my story, but you have to trade all of that for what? And I can say that here, which, yes, you're trading it all to be one of their agents, to go around shooting people randomly, for example. And I chose not to do it, and everyone hates me for that in a way, because exactly, I learned how to do that, in a sense, instead of make money, you know. Like I needed investors, I needed benefactors, because I was always learning and cultivating my craft, which in large part was filmmaking. And filmmaking is what saved me, because it gave me the chance to look back on my life and say, what was I thinking? What was I doing? You know, thank goodness I have that right now with my divorce and my husband, because I was picking up on everything. But for whatever reason, I didn't think it was a reason to leave him in the dust. And of course it was. I should have dropped him like immediately, but it was, you know, it was the lovemaking, I have to admit, which I have none of now. I have no vanity. He stole all that from me. And exactly, so it was like my greatest sin in life. And exactly, I devoted myself to a cause because by that time I was a mother. So to sell myself short on something, and no, it wasn't consensual. It wasn't consensual because my mind was so weak at the time, and he must have known that. But the thing is that he doesn't know things because he doesn't care. He doesn't care. And he can't care because that would take away from him devising things for himself. And that's what these people do, is that they're so doubtful and hateful of themselves that they can't possibly be a successful entrepreneur or anything. So instead, what they're doing is, how do I get the next girlfriend and the next house to live in, you know? And like, this guy was unwilling to get a job when I knew him. And I was like, wow, we would literally live in a car and eat out of dumpsters. And anyone might say, what on earth were you doing with a guy like that? But exactly, he also claimed to be an artist. So on that level, I was learning. So that was my motivation to keep going with him. It's like, this is so Exactly. Like, I've always wanted to be a good writer. That's why I'm going to finally finish a movie I started like 20 years ago, which is called Amidst the Roses. But I can finally finish that movie because I've known my husband. So I realize, in a sense, that this is exactly what I asked for. Because all I ever asked for, like truly from my heart, was not for a husband, it was to be a good writer. So now I'm ready for that. And exactly, a screenwriter. I want to see my words on the screen. And to start with this documentary is so epic. So epic. And then exactly, I can protect everyone's likeness, at least. I'm not going to protect the names because it's a documentary, so I'm claiming fair use as far as that goes. Like, nope, this is who these people are if you ever run into them. But right, if it doesn't look like them or exactly like them, or if I make someone's hair black instead of brown, it'll be things like that. And then everybody asked way too much of me. Like that guy, the dude, I'm just going to call him that for now, the dude. And he got famous publishing Coast to Coast AM interviews. And then his channel was ultimately shut down. So the way like I said, I have no family. So I ended up meeting up with this guy. And once again, the sin happens. And then there's no respect. So I someone in place to take my son, but I was going to lose my son because this guy didn't care. And I'll tell that story later. But exactly, he said, like, Defects was there to take my son, except that I was able to call the person who became his father. And I get that he was supposed to die. I get that I was supposed to leave with the money and leave with everything. That's what I was being told. But it's like, no, because I think I can't balance that morally and ethically. So I took $900, put it into his account. I left everything there, the TVs, everything. The only thing I took was this pyramid with a ring in it and a strand of his hair. This is Barry. And pictures and the printer, the Epson Artisan 837. The printer. And I guess I'm about to just sell that thing. It needs to be cleaned if anyone knows how to do that. I bet software stores are buying stuff off eBay all the time. So yeah, this is me putting my life back together by getting rid of stuff actually that doesn't even belong to me. Like I'm stuck with his stuff and he threw all my stuff away. I mean, I have this all on video and I'm at the point where I don't have to scream and cry every time I think about it now. And this is my husband. But exactly, I married him because of the landlord. So that I can stake that claim of, no, this is my husband. We agreed to something before this lunatic. But Barry was dead by this point, so it's Dan. And Chris didn't care that he was a lunatic because that meant that he wasn't going to judge Chris too much. And that's pretty much all Chris cares about is his image. And I get that. That's why you do these seminars, the ones that tell you it's not all about looking good or being right. Well, when you meet someone and you marry someone who doesn't give a shit at all about those seminars because it all comes down to money. These people would never pay $700 to be a better person. I did do those kinds of things. So I have the references when I need them, but the problem is when I'm facing homelessness when I'm facing rape and domestic violence and someone like this guy, Chris. He's got a ticket to ride, is what it is. It's absolutely true, like, because he's good looking, you know. I think that might have something to do with what that song means. Because exactly, like, when people idolize you, they'll do anything to get close to you because they want what you have. You've got to be clear about that. So, for instance, Chris, like, the first place he saw me was a movie. There's nothing worse than that. And then I was easy on top of that. I'm just being blunt here because it's something I'm going to root out. Like, what I need to root out is people pleasing at all. And people pleasing men is absolutely, you will end up dead and gone. Because they don't care. They don't care the same way we do. We are the backbone of the family, not the man. Okay, men are replaceable. And the thing, what I'm saying is that means men need to be strong and smart. Okay, men who've been, who are strong and have responsibility, you're the ones who should be here because you're an example in the community. I'm talking about the people who just want a new mother because their mother was intolerable. And that's just not fair. Adults should not be seeking these kinds of things from other adults. It's parasitic. But exactly, this is a society that tells you good looks are like an attribute that's as good or important as any other. And then it's overwhelmingly on the female side, but no. A man who looks good and who can play the part doesn't have to do much work. Like, that's what white supremacy really is, and white privilege and everything. And anyone might say, the problem is that brown people, or people with no family or whatever, we come in with our standards because we're competing with you. And I'm talking to the white privileged man who doesn't know that. We're competing with you, yes. But instead of saying, oh, this is healthy competition, like they would for their stupid football games, they just try to eliminate these outside voices. And I'm talking about in a stupid rural town like I live in now. And I'm not talking about the tourists, because the tourists are like educated people. A lot of them are elites even. And so they have a lot of respect for poor people because they know poor people are smart. Where we lose it with elites is they just have to take advantage of someone, so they end up taking advantage of the dumb poor people. And that ends up being our problem. So if I'm a smart poor person and I have to tolerate these dumb poor people that the elites have emboldened with their identity politics, for example, then yes, it sucks for me, okay? Because I see through that, and I'm a person of merit, or trying to be, and this person's screaming at me, literally. So then I react, and I'm the one who ends up going to jail if I live in a place like this, for example. So, I guess that's about all I have to say for now. And I'm gonna have some things listed soon. I'll start making videos about that because I expect to get rich at the end of all this. And what's the end of all this? It'll be April next year, 2026. I know, Rex. Kind of sucks. All right, so this video is no longer than 25 minutes, and I'll leave it there.